and the removal of life, they're fun.
Duck hunting was banned in Western Australia in 1990, in New South Wales in 1995 and in Queensland in 2005. South Australia is a state that remains in duck ageism. We call upon the Minister of Environment, our MPs and our Premier, Mr Peter Malinauskas, to take a look at the stats. More than 3/4 of South Australia's population wants quail and duck hunting to end. We don't want another inquiry. If inquiries are anything to go by, we've got a very bad experience of politicians just lying to us and siding with the big players, the big money holders who want specific things to continue no matter how unjust or wrong they are. Before the last state election, the Liberal government pretended to hold an inquiry into bow hunting and came up with inconclusive results, when we know for a fact that most South Australians are against violence toward innocent animals. The message that you're passing to us, members of parliament, is that the government is interested in servicing the whims of the wealthy members of the community who are pro-hunting as a sport. Imagine the unhealthy mental standards you observe and protect, those of killers. Isn't the enjoyment of life removal the territory of psychopaths? How can we trust politicians who look after the interest of criminals? We are constituents too. Our votes count. We are sick of your lies and stalling. We want violence against innocent, defenceless and helpless living beings to end now. Less than 0.05% of South Australians apply for hunting permits. That is a tiny percentage of the population dictating our policies for us. How is that reflective of a democracy or a fair system? You may be after the money of the wealthy voters who belong to hunting clubs. However, ironically, this negatively affects our economy. Tourists are put off by our pro-hunting community. Travellers refuse to stay in areas where shooting is conducted because they feel unsafe. Did you know that bird watching attracts more overnight stays than visitors to the Great Barrier Reef? It is a better income generator for our state because it's not temporary and seasonal like your quotation, sport, and quotation of violence. It can be enjoyed all year round with a variety of wildlife. What makes matters worse when it comes to duck and quail hunting is that shotguns are the weapons of choice. They spray pellets which often don't hit the heart, brain or a main blood vessel of an animal. What that means is that hunters don't come to the shooting grounds with a shoot-to-kill policy. The sadism and suffering are of maximum level. Birds who have been hit will go on suffering for weeks, sometimes months at a time, before they finally succumb to their injuries and die. Imagine living in agony for that long. To add further insult to injury, when a bird falls because of impact damage such as torn muscles, broken bones, or damaged wings after receiving blows by pellets, he or she will suffer further injury upon impact with the ground. Studies by shotgun maker Winchester have indicated that less than 50% of the animals hit will be retrieved by the hunters. Those that are retrieved will be picked up and swung around by the necks until the necks break and they die. Every detail relating to duck hunting is full of violence. It reveals a group of people who enjoy the maximum extremism in suffering and sadism. Our government and officials support this kind of thing? You want a sport? Why not promote clay targeting and move along to the standard of 2023? Living beings are not inanimate objects, which is the troublesome detail that hunters actually enjoy removing life, not just shooting targets. How can the government promote violence in our community, especially violence against innocent living beings, vulnerable individuals of our community who can't defend themselves? Enough is enough. I'm not sure which way we have to present the facts to politicians so that they engage, because at the moment they've got the ears covered and they don't want to hear the facts. We're telling you that animals die a very violent death. Those who are injured and fall in water will drown slowly. There are others who are so severely injured that they won't be able to fend for themselves and feed themselves. So there is not only the pain of their injuries that they have to endure for a very long time, weeks or months upon end, not only the distress of being incapacitated, but also the distress of not being able to feed themselves and slowly starving to death from malnutrition. The numbers of our native birds have been plummeting for the last 40 years, and they are at the second lowest rate they have ever been.
They don't deserve to go in such a violent manner just because somebody considers that it's his fun, his kicks, and who are we to stop the fun of an imbalanced individual?
If you enjoy to watch somebody slowly die or to know that you've just removed life, there is something severely wrong with you. So how about it, ministers and politicians?
We're going to keep encouraging this violence in our community. In 2023, when the majority of the Earth's citizens are steering toward a kinder lifestyle, many are adapting a plant diet in order to less impact the environment, because we are overpopulated by 3 billion people and the Earth's resources can't keep up.
The waste products produced by factory farming are the biggest pollutant and destroyer of the environment. So at a time that the rest of the world is growing conscious and trying to do something positive for the planet, South Australians are going to pass the message that we are here to destroy animals and species. I'm sorry, we just don't trust you politicians and ministers anymore. The policing system you've got in place is non-operable and close to non-existent. It's there just for show.
We know that the national parks people are not there to regulate like they're supposed to the hunting grounds.
We are aware that there are breaches of the law going on by hunters and that the entire process is completely unregulated by wildlife officers who are meant to be monitoring and ensuring that particular observations are kept. Independent teams have carried out investigations and they have witnessed extreme levels of cruelty, species that are non-permissible to be hunted and were still killed by hunters, and hunters who were encouraging the dogs to maul ducks alive. Too little, too late. We're not going to wait for another questionable inquiry to sweep the facts under the rug. Last election, I was talking to Liberal MP Dennis Hood, and he was telling me how the results of the last inquiry his government did on bow hunting were inconclusive, when they were anything but inconclusive.
South Australians are people who love animals. We know that the results are very conclusive. There is great suffering involved with duck hunting. The majority of South Australians don't want it to go on.
Period. Do you want to keep backing a violent activity that sends the wrong messages about South Australia and its leaders? Do you want to maintain the support of the violent, aggressive members of the public and only theirs because they have the big pockets, but ultimately deter tourists, especially at a time our economy is at its most vulnerable?
And especially in this day and age with inflation and the current woes on our mind.
Our local businesses are suffering and closing down more than ever.
We could do with every single dollar that comes into our state.
Out with their antiquated violent sport of hunting and in with bird watching and other recreational means which attract tourism instead of deterring it and also promote a healthy society. Do you want to destroy our economy and deter the average voter? Do you want to lose the average members of the community support? Because I've got a news flash for you. There are a lot more of us than those few 0.05% of the South Australian population who are actually interested in hunting. Ultimately, no killing should be somebody's fun. Ban duck and quail hunting
now.